Girl, you know you need to call me. All right, I love you. Bye.
Hey family, welcome to Call Me When You Make It. I'm Jayla.
And I'm Tamala, and we are the mother-daughter duo that you never knew you needed.
Yes, welcome to episode 11.
Wow.
In the double digits now.
Look at that.
Doing big things.
Yes.
Today's episode I'm really excited about because it's another topic that's a little bit taboo. It's something that people sometimes get a little uncomfortable, a little hush-hush about. But, you know, we like to bring the topics, okay? Mm-hmm. So today we are getting into religion and spirituality. I'm excited for this one because there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to discuss, and I'm excited. So first, let's just get into kind of like our upbringings and our personal relationship with religion, I guess.
Okay.
At first. So what was your childhood like, and what was your religious upbringing as a child?
So I was raised Catholic, as a Catholic, and I went to, if they watched any of the previous episodes that when we talked about education, I went to public school. Mm-hmm. So when you're Catholic and you go to public school, you go to catechism after school. Mm-hmm. That's where you get your, learn all your theology and get all your, stuff you would get when you go to Catholic school.
Like an after-school class.
After-school class,
okay.
Right? It's a program, part of the program. Part of the, all the teachings that the things you need to know as a Catholic.
How did that work? Like, did you guys set that up through your church? Or how did you guys do that?
Honestly, I'm a child at that time.
So,
and
yeah.
as your mother, you were always in the Catholic school. So I honestly don't know.
Okay.
To be super honest, I don't
okay.
know how my mom did that.
Okay.
I do remember her going to I believe she went directly to the Catholic school and set it up, because where I went was to an actual Catholic school.
Oh, that makes sense, because at my school, kids would come after school.
Right. No, she would drop me off
okay.
at the Catholic school for
okay.
That's where it was. The classes were actually held.
Okay, that makes sense.
At a Catholic school, so she probably went to that actual school and asked about the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after my public school was over, I had to go there to that Catholic school and go to catechism.
So. In doing catechism, did you also go through like all of the sacraments and stuff too, like your first reconciliation and
absolutely
communion and all that? Okay.
Sure did, just like you did.
Yeah.
Right at that Catholic school.
So you did it with other kids.
Absolutely.
So for me, basically same thing, just instead of having to do catechism or do it like extracurricular, I was already at a Catholic school. So from K through 8th, I was at the same school, and then 9th through 12th grade, I was at a Catholic school as well. So growing up, Catholicism was just in the curriculum. Like, I remember we had religion classes when it was time for us to do the sacraments. So like first reconciliation, first communion, like we had all of that already built into our curriculum.
Right.
And then I remember we had mass every single week. I forgot exactly how it was broken up, but it was like each class would go to mass with like another class. Like there was usually like 2 classes that would go to weekly mass together. But then if it was like a holiday or like a certain special occasion, we would do like all school mass.
I remember that.
I also, fun fact, do you remember when I was an altar server?
Yes, I do. I remember that.
I forget about that sometimes because
do.
In middle school, you could basically like apply, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, to be an altar server. And I just remember like as a kid, it just seemed so cool, like seeing the altar servers up on the altar assisting the priest. So I did that for probably like a year. It wasn't that long.
About that.
It wasn't that long, but yeah, I did that. I did that.
Once again, our active child.
Always doing something.
Always active.
Always into something. But yeah, so it was just very much ingrained from like the start of school for me all the way up. And then same thing for high school too. I think high school it was a little bit more lax, just because I think for one, at my high school, again, it was Catholic, but there was such a range of different girls that were different religions and like came from different backgrounds. So
right.
It was, I mean, we still had like theology classes and stuff like that, and we did still have like liturgy, which was like when the whole school would do mass and stuff like that. But I don't know, it was just like kind of a different vibe, if that makes sense. It wasn't
right,
because I think they just knew like, okay, not everybody here is Catholic. So we're not gonna like
go so hard.
Like it just felt different than my elementary school. But even again, like with my high school, there was still certain like you could be involved in like campus ministry if you wanted to, which was like, I can't really remember like what all they did. My bad. But it was like if you wanted to kind of delve deeper into like theology that way, you could. There was also retreats that we would go on. So I remember going to like a couple of retreats. So stuff like that. So it was just always kind of ingrained in the academics. And so that was kind of all I knew. Like I didn't really know what school would even be like without having some kind of like religious aspect to it. But I also remember when the very first time that I ever kind of questioned religion or like questioned my beliefs was in 8th grade, which I'll get into in a second. But did you ever have a time like growing up where you remember kind of questioning or being like, do I agree with that? Or do I believe that? Or any kind of like skepticism when it came to Catholicism or religion?
Yes. Mine, I started to question it, or it was around birth control.
How old were you then?
When I talked to my mom, well, again, you know, my mom didn't like to talk about that whole situation too much. But I did ask her. I asked her, and she was like, I don't really remember verbatim, so I don't want to say what she said. But so I talked to my grandmother because she was always the one teaching me about, you know, the Bible and you know, Catholicism. And so she's the one that told me, and she was even starting to shift a little bit with her beliefs, and she stopped going to church. And she started to say, you know what, everything that's in the Bible might not be correct. You know, so that's when they lost me, because I said, okay, you know, this whole, you know, if I don't want to have children, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're losing me here.
Do you know, when was that for you?
That was like, oh gosh, I was like about 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a little bit later.
17, 18. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's probably about 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one for me too.
That was you're losing me.
That was one for me too.
Definitely losing me here.
There's a couple of different things, but the first one that I remember was when I was in 8th grade. We had to do a world religions project. So I remember I had to write a big essay about all of the different world religions. So I was researching Buddhism, Hinduism,
I remember
Taoism.
when you did that. I remember that big project.
It was a really big project, really big paper. And that was the first time I ever learned about any other religions, because like I said, the only thing I knew was Catholicism.
Right.
And like Christianity.
Right.
And so I never knew anything else about any of these religions. And so as I'm doing my research and I'm doing this project, the whole time I'm doing it, I'm like, all of these religions, like the base doctrine and like the base principle is the same. It's the same. It's just the practices and obviously all the details and like the scripture and things like that are different. And it's obviously there's cultural differences too. But I'm like, but the base of it all is the same. So that's the first time where my wheels started turning, where I was like, well, maybe religion isn't such a like right and wrong thing. Because I feel like the other thing with being at a Catholic school was we were kind of taught like, this is it. Like, this is the right religion. This is the correct way to practice. And in learning about the other faiths, I was like, that's not necessarily true. Like, who's to say that this is the right way or the correct, you know what I'm saying?
But I feel like every religion is like that. I feel like every religion says this is the right way.
Yeah.
This, our way, is the way. Because
Right.
I feel like, not to put them on blast, but just off the top, I feel like Jehovah Witness says that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're a Buddhist, they say, like, I feel like whatever the religion is, they say their way is the way.
Is it?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, just because, you were Catholic, that's what they said.
Yeah.
Our way is the way.
Yeah.
Whatever your religion is, I feel like, because it said, just like you just said, because that's all they know.
That's what you know, yeah.
So you think that this is the only way.
Yeah.
But when you, just like you just said, if you it's just like anything else. If you educate yourself, you will be amazed. Maybe your way is not the only way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that, like, really opened my eyes, because I was like, yeah, who's to say, like, there's a right or wrong?
There is no right or wrong
answer.
when it comes to that,
Yeah.
if you ask me. Because,
Yeah.
like my grandmother said, everything that's in this book, maybe it's not right.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. And so that was what you said about birth control and just like certain beliefs too. I thought about, same thing happened with me. Like, I remember being in class, and obviously we would read the Bible, and we had a lot of like religious texts that we would study and stuff. And I remember coming to that point where we were talking about birth control, we were talking about divorce, and we were talking about the Pope. That was another big one.
Yeah, that's another one.
So when we talked about like birth control and then like, not believing in divorce and stuff like that, I was like, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with this at all. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
and
since
then,
I'm sitting here divorced, obviously.
and so I was like, I don't really agree with that. And then we started talking about the Pope. And I remember, the belief and the teaching is the Pope is infallible. And I remember as a kid, I was like, I don't agree with that. Is the Pope not a human being?
Right.
And that was one of the big teachings where I was like, I'm not with
he
this.
sits on a toilet just like the rest of us, doesn't he?
I
I'm
was
just saying, come on.
I was like, infallible?
That's a little bit ridiculous.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
So there was just like certain little details with Catholicism that I was just like, growing up, I started to kind of open my eyes.
Same.
Like, I don't agree with any of that.
Yeah, it's very much sometimes.
And so I think high school, like after that, like after 8th grade, that's when I kind of started to like open my eyes to certain things. And then in high school, I feel like that's when I kind of made it up in my mind. Like, I think I align more with just like Christianity as a whole, just like non-denominational. Because I was like, I don't want to label it. And it's like, I believe in God and I do consider myself a Christian, but I wouldn't say I'm like a certain denomination. I wouldn't say I have like these firm, set of practices and rules, and like, that's just not, I just don't. And that was something that I decided for myself really in like high school. And it was like, again, I was still at a Catholic high school, so we were still doing liturgy, and we still had, certain things that we had to do for school. But personally, that was like kind of the decision that I made. And speaking of like liturgy and church and stuff like that, did you grow up in church, like going to church? Was that like a regular thing?
Yes, we went to church on Sunday. If I didn't go with my mom, well, usually I went with my grandma, because on the weekends I was with her. So we went on.
You guys went to mass,
we went
Catholic,
to mass. Yes, that's what we call it in Catholic church. Yeah, we went to mass every Sunday, and if she didn't feel good or something, then oh boy, I have to tell this story.
What happened?
Because my grandmother wanted me to go. She wanted me to be in church on a Sunday. So, girl, so we're Catholic. So that's what, Catholic church is different from any other type of church. Like, if you're Baptist, you're used to going to Baptist church.
It's
it's
different.
Own type of Catholic mass is Catholic mass.
Yeah.
So my grandmother's neighbor was Baptist.
Oh, wow.
So,
Completely
when
different.
my grandmother decided that if she didn't feel good or something, I would go to church with her friend. I won't say the name. Her friend that was her good friend. She was a neighbor, a family friend. On Sundays. Mm-hmm. And so the first time I went, so, once I got used to it, it wasn't as big a deal because they had children's church and all that. Mm-hmm. So, but oh boy, the first time was very eye-opening and shocking.
I was like, whoa,
I
night
was like,
and day.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness. So my first Baptist church experience was like...
You're like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like sitting there in shock like, oh boy, we don't do this at Mass.
No, that's so true because I think
goodness.
Same kind of thing where like... Because growing up, we didn't, like, as an immediate family, we didn't go to church on Sunday like that. Like, we didn't go to Mass and stuff. But it was like, I went to Mass every week because of school.
Because of school, right.
But then also, so
like... And so, hold on. So, sidebar, because my husband didn't grow... we didn't do that because my husband was, like, not a... He
wasn't super religious.
He wasn't an atheist or anything,
but he wasn't
religious. Yeah, so that's why.
And yes, we just, as an immediate family, that just like wasn't something that we did. But when I would go to my grandma's on the weekend, and her and my grandpa were very like heavily involved in the church because he was like a deacon and he was like, really involved in the church. So I would go to church with them growing up, and I remember just being like, whoa, this is so different. Because if you are Catholic or if you've been to Catholic Mass, it is very structured. Everything is like super structured. It's a set time. The songs are a certain way. You stand up at a certain time. You kneel at a certain time. Like, it's all very structured. Yes. And it's quick too. Like, Mass is like 45 minutes and then to an hour home. And you're done.
That's it.
Baptist church or Methodist, any kind of like, Christian church, especially like a black
I thought
church,
I was going to fall asleep.
It was, first of all, it's way longer. And even just like the praise and worship, like the choir and all of it is just so different. So as a kid, I was like, whoa, like this is just so different.
Yeah.
And I feel like I always enjoyed like the praise and worship, like the choir and stuff. I always loved the songs because it was so different and it was just like more entertaining. I was more into it. But it was, as a kid, it was the actual like sermon part. I was like, it's been 3 hours.
Right.
I'm ready to go.
I'm telling you, you're like ready to go to sleep as a kid.
I'm ready. I'm falling asleep. I'm like, so that was like a big change there. And then also, one of my best friends growing up, she's like my sister. And I would go to her house all the time. And her mom would always go to church.
Right.
And we would go to the Bay Area sometimes and go to her church that she like grew up in. That was another experience where it was like, whoa, this is like so different. Again, coming from like that Catholic background to like going to a church where people are like shouting and falling out on the floor, like that type of, like, as a kid, I was kind of like scared because I didn't know what was going on.
Like, what's happening?
I was like, why is she passed out?
Is that person all right?
Like literally, but it was like I didn't know because it was like in Mass, people aren't doing that,
right?
So it was just it was interesting having like so the two worlds,
right?
Right, and like growing up with that, So so that was kind of like the church experience. Like definitely I would say definitely grew up in church, but also like not really, if that makes sense, because like I said, as an immediate family, we didn't go to church like that, but I was always like in church with other family members, because like my dad too, I will say, like when I would visit my dad in LA in the summers and stuff, he would go to church every Sunday, like every single Sunday. We get up, get dressed, we are going to church, and it was similar type of thing. The only difference was because my dad's side is Ghanaian, so it would be more like Ghanaian, like Pentecostal church, which is different too. Like I don't even really know how to describe. It's similar to like a Baptist Christian kind of vibe, but a little different. And Pentecostal church is also extremely long, so that was another factor there. But so I experienced a lot of different types of like
that's good though
Christian churches. Yeah, and it was good.
Okay,
it was good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that you got that experience on a regular basis, and I think that's why I put you in Catholic school for numerous reasons. But one of the things I knew you would get is, the regular teachings, and mass is a part of that, right? And I knew that because of who I married, that going to church on Sunday was not going to be a thing, and I didn't want to be one of those wives that took her kids to mass by herself. I didn't want to do that, so that that was one of the things that I knew you would get, you and your brother.
Yeah.
So that was important to me, because
Yeah.
that would be instilled, all throughout your childhood.
Yeah.
So I knew you would get that. And, I was never one of those people that believed, and no shade to the people that go every single Sunday, where it became chorists, because some people, that's what it is. It's like, oh, we have to go to, and then the kids are like, oh, we don't feel like going to church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that to my kids. And then with extracurricular stuff, a lot of times it cuts into that, and things like that. So I didn't want to have that type of a situation. But yet and still, if you're in Catholic school, you're still getting the teachings that you
daily
need,
yeah,
for sure. So yeah,
and I do appreciate that, because I learned a lot. And it also, with the teachings, as I got older, like I said, I got to still get the teachings, but also decide for myself, like, okay, as I'm growing and as I'm learning more and getting more information, what do I actually believe, or what am I questioning? Because that was the thing too. And it was interesting though, because I feel like being in Catholic school, you're not really like encouraged to question. It's kind of just like, this is what we're teaching you and this is correct, and that's just what you believe. But I feel like when I got to high school, and especially in college, that was when I kind of felt more free to question. Like, well, and do I agree with that?
And at home, I mean, you were never like told like, hey, you better be a Catholic. That was never a thing.
That's true too.
That was never going to be a thing. So
that's true too. I definitely didn't feel like forced.
Not at all.
Into, like, do you have to believe this?
No.
And I think, like, you guys, just as parents, you guys knew the type of child that I was. Like, I was always very curious, very inquisitive. For sure. I'm going to ask questions. Absolutely. I'm going to question, like...
And we encourage that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Something that I also wanted to get into, just along with, like, religion and practices and things like that, that I think can kind of be, like, another little like kind of hot topic is astrology, because astrology is something that don't get me wrong, like I'm by no means like an astrology expert. I'm still learning. I'm very much, dipping my toes in. But I feel like over the last few years, I've learned a decent amount about like basic astrology, and I've been enjoying it. Like I feel like there's a lot of like taboo around astrology, because some people feel like, oh, that's like witchcraft, and that's like there's like a thing with astrology. But to me personally, I feel like astrology ties in directly with like spirituality and God. So my thing is, okay, I believe in God. I believe that he created the planets, the galaxies, the universe, and everything in it. Why wouldn't astrology tie into why wouldn't it just makes sense to me? Like the fact
why wouldn't when you were born be tied into
God? why wouldn't the way the stars and the planets aligned at whatever time you were born indicate something about you? I don't know. To me it just makes sense.
Go together. I get what you're saying.
To me it just makes sense. And it's like, again, going into, if you believe that God created everything, like why wouldn't astrology and all that it entails be a part of that? So that's just kind of my view. Like I said, I'm someone who like, I don't necessarily like look to astrology to like predict things like, oh, I can't do such and such, because like I'm not that deep into it, but I feel like it's a good guide. Like especially if you're trying to learn about yourself, learn about, family members, loved ones, your partner, like, yeah, that birth chart could be a little helpful. I really do think.
Right.
Like, because even, like, I know, like, I know my boyfriend's big three, and, like, we've talked about your big three. So if you're not familiar with, like, astrology and what your big three is, you have your sun sign, which is your zodiac sign. That's like when people ask you, oh, what's your sign? That's like the sign that correlates with your birthday. So like, I'm a Virgo, you're a Libra, that's your sun sign. Then you have a moon sign, which correlates with like your emotions and things like that. We did your big three at one point, but I forgot what your moon and your rising is. But we'll figure that out and
get into
check
that
back
later.
Yeah,
because I forgot.
I'm a Pisces moon. And then you have your rising, or it's also called your ascendant, which is basically like how you present yourself to the world and kind of like your outward personality. And I'm a Capricorn rising. So yeah, just if you want to join my big three, those are my big three. But I was saying that to say, like, I know a lot of like my friends' big three, my boyfriend's big three, and even like with that, like with my relationship, it's interesting because we have the same rising, and so we know certain things about ourselves because of that. And then like even his moon sign, I'm like, okay, you act like that because of that. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like it helps,
and it makes sense
to know, and it makes sense.
So that's funny you're talking about that, because when you were talking a few minutes ago, I was thinking, about the things aligning and God and stuff like that. I was thinking the types of people that are certain signs, right? How could it not be right? Because the people that I know, and it's like, oh, you must be this, you must be, and it's spot on. Like, it's like, you just can know sometimes. And I know, like, all the stuff that I read, like, about myself even, it's like, oh, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me.
It's pretty accurate.
If I'm thinking of certain people, that's definitely her. Yep, that for sure. So, I mean, come on. They can't be wrong all the time. I mean, and not that they're always right. But, like, I'm seeing things and it's like 98%.
No, seriously,
like pretty close.
I feel this because like
it's a lot.
The things that I mean, read and research about Virgos, and just regular. Like me knowing myself, I'm just like, like this
they
makes
get it right
all the
a
sense.
Lot.
So I think astrology is it's been something that, like I said, I've been kind of delving into it over the last few years, and I still feel like I have so much more to learn. And I have a lot of friends that are into it too, and friends that are way, better educated on it than I am. But I just think it's something that is interesting. It can be used as kind of a guide to just navigate through life and your relationships. And I don't think it should be viewed as so like, just like have such a stigma with it. You know what I mean? That's just my personal take on it. Because I personally do believe that it ties in with God and just creation in general. So I just wanted to touch on that for a second, but kind of tying back into our relationship with God and religion versus spirituality. How do you feel like you would kind of categorize yourself now, or like where do you feel like you stand when it comes to your religious or spiritual views?
I feel like I don't really paint myself into a box. I'm more like, I'm not a practicing Catholic, and I don't, kind of like you, like I said, when I started questioning the practices in the Catholic religion, I started to shift away from it. And I saw my grandmother shifting away from it. And that's when, she started to talk to me, and she said, you know what? It's not so much about what religion you are. It's about your relationship with God. And what's in your heart, and He knows. And you don't have to put yourself into a box and belong to this religion, that religion, belong to God and have that relationship with God, you know. And so that's how I feel. I just feel like I have a relationship with God, and He knows that I have a relationship with Him, and I talk to Him all the time. I pray with Him all the time, and you know, that's what I do. So I just feel like I don't tie myself belong to a specific religion. I I belong to God. And I feel I am, because of I'm very intuitive and very I feel like, so I am spiritual for sure. But I belong to God. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I feel the same way because, like I said earlier, I do still identify as a Christian, just because I feel like
for sure,
I still feel tied to it. As far as like practicing, I mean, I think it just kind of depends on like what do you consider practicing versus not, because it's like if you're asking me about going to church, like, no, I don't go to church really. I'm not opposed to going to church, but it's just not what I don't even want to get into that.
Well, no, we're gonna go finish your sentence. I want to say something when you finish.
Just I'm not opposed to going to church, but it's just not something that I have felt called to do on a regular basis. And I also feel like, because it's interesting, because like me not going to church, even though I haven't gone to church, right now, I don't think I've ever felt this close to God or had like such a good relationship ever. Like, even when I was going to church every week and when I was in, you know, Catholic school and, you know, doing all of that, I feel like right now is when I actually feel closest to God, and I feel like I have a really close relationship, and I'm actually like, I read the Bible every night, which even that is like, you know, there's some questionable things in the Bible to me. There's some things that I read where I'm like, I don't know about that, or like I have a question about that. But to me, I think that's healthy. It's like I'm still just doing my own research. I'm still learning. But I personally read the Bible for encouragement and for affirmations, for, you know what I mean? Like it's different. And so, you know, there's that piece of it. You know, I pray a lot. I talk to God a lot. I feel very connected. And I feel just very spiritually aware. I also, like, not to sound all woo-woo or anything, but I feel like as I've gotten older and as I've just, like, been more in tune spiritually, I do feel like you can kind of, like, become aware of, like, gifts that you have. Like, whether it's your intuition, whether it's, like, I don't know. It's like the more you tap in, the more...
Oh, no, that's true.
The more... You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Because there's been stuff that happens and I'm like, so am I psychic? Like, or like dreams that I have, or like
that's
things that I see. Yeah, and I'm
that's
like,
in tune.
Okay. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's like, that didn't used to happen before. Like, growing up, I don't really remember any instances where that would happen. Now that I'm like really tapped
that's that strong relationship you have.
I'm like, oh wow, like this is different. So to me, it's like that's what's been important. It's just like really being tapped in, staying grounded,
just being connected,
and staying connected. Yeah, like that's what's important to me. So that's kind of been like my current situation. What were you going to say about church? Because we were talking about church.
Let's talk about going to church.
Let's.
Now, I'm going to say, let me put this out here ahead of time for all of you churchgoers, because I'm going to upset some people. And it's okay. It's okay. No shade for my church-going family members. There are those of you that go to church that this does not apply to. So I'm putting that out there now.
Disclaimer.
I'm not talking to you, okay? But there are those that sit in church and you're hypocrites. I'm talking to you. Okay?
Yeah.
That turned me off from church. I know a lot of people that sit in church and they're the biggest sinners on the planet. And that is why I stopped going to church. It's and people will say, "Oh, well, you can't let other people stop you from what." That is true. But I'm sorry. I don't want to sit up amongst a bunch of people, claiming to be Christian and, holier than thou, sitting there lying and, just sitting up with a bunch of lying hypocrites and judging other people. And it's just terrible. So I'm sorry. I can sit at home, read my Bible, pray, and have, like Jayla just said, the strongest connection with God that I've ever had. Like she just, because I've been through so much, I feel a very strong connection with God. So you can have that connection, just like my grandmother did at her house. And she, trust me, had a very strong connection with God. And that's why she had all her blessings. She was very blessed.
Yeah, truly.
No doubt about it.
Truly.
It really started to turn me off when I started to see some people doing certain things and behaving in certain ways with people and treating people certain ways. That just really started to turn me off from the whole church scene. So, I just feel like, you don't have to go to church if you don't want to. If you do, great. Have at it. But I just really don't feel compelled to do so. And again, because it also makes sense I'm not going to church because I don't feel like I need to belong to a certain religion. So, what church am I going to?
That makes sense.
So my church is in my bedroom with, my Bible and on my knees and talking to God. That's where my church is at.
I feel the same way when it comes to church because, again, I'm not opposed to going to church, and I've been to church here and there, like, over the years, just to, like, for different experiences and just to try it. So I'm not opposed to it, and I think church can be great. I have friends and family who love church. They found community. They love the way it makes them feel. I understand what church can do, and I understand that it can be a positive thing for people. It
can be.
But I also have been turned off by church as well. There's been situations where it's like, you have a pastor or a preacher who's, supposed to be leading the flock and, telling people what to do, and you over here cheating on your wife, you over here doing this, and like
taking everyone's money and driving a
tithing and things like that. It's just, there's just certain things that have rubbed me the wrong way, where I'm like, I don't know about that. And the thing is, I'm not saying that all churches are like that. I know that there are churches out there.
No, this doesn't apply to all churches, of course. Some churches are great.
Some churches are great.
And great pastors.
Exactly. And I love that.
And they're not cheating on their wives.
But there are churches that are on the other end of the spectrum that are, scamming and lying and taking advantage of the community. And it can get real cultish real fast. That's the other thing too.
That's that I don't like that vibe.
I don't like
cult
that
vibe. I can't do it.
I don't like that. Like you should never feel forced to give money and forced to do certain things.
And you shouldn't
just to
be made to feel poorly.
Yeah.
If you don't.
Yeah.
Don't judge me and make me feel a certain type of way if I'm not putting money, in this basket.
And also,
I don't like that.
And just judgment, period. Like, don't judge me because I don't go to church. Like, I just feel like the judgment
those people
piece
really
of
bother
it,
me.
The judgment part of it is just like, is that not a sin in itself? Like, why are you judging? Why do you care what I do?
That's my other thing, though. The people that judge you, because and people looking at this, maybe they're judging. Oh, she doesn't go to church. No, I don't.
Right.
And who are you to judge me because I don't? How about that?
Yeah.
Last time I checked, that's between me and God. And, you're sitting there in church, but you're judging me because I don't go.
Yeah.
So, that's my prerogative.
Right. Right. So, yeah, it's just, it's the judgment piece that I don't like.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not opposed to church. If I, found a church that, I wanted to try, or somebody invited me to church, like, I would be very open and willing to go. But it's just like, at the moment, I don't feel, just like you said, I don't feel compelled to go and find a church. And,
maybe one day.
Maybe. But I just, like right now I'm just like, I'm good with my
I'm
my
doing
own
very
practices.
well with my
I'm
situation
I'm
right
feeling
now.
good.
Yeah.
I don't really, And I also, along with that, because like I said, I know that for a lot of people, they find community in church, which is great, especially if you're like in a new city or something. I know there's a lot of people who, like to find kind of that church family if they're somewhere new or foreign to them.
Right.
But
and
also,
that's good.
And
I think that's a good thing,
But I think along with that, on the other end of the spectrum, I do also see, and I have seen in the past in churches that I've gone to, it gets very cliquey, where it's like, okay, all the people in the choir are like
judging
there, and then if you're not in Bible study, then you're like ostracized, or like it's just like it gets real cliquey, and I don't like that.
That judgy stuff.
It's like,
I don't like it.
Like, why is church feeling like high school? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that either. And then another thing, more thing.
Oh boy,
another thing. Because, you get into the conversations of, like, mega churches and stuff. And I feel like in LA and, like, other, big cities, this is a thing. I'm not going to call out any names, obviously. But I feel like there are certain churches where, along with, like, the clickiness of it, it starts turning into, like, almost like a membership or, like, a club kind of aspect. Where, like, people are going and it's like... it's like you're not even really worried about like the word for real. You're worried about like who you're gonna see and who's gonna see you.
Serious?
Yes, especially in LA.
Goodness.
There have been churches in LA where it's like, oh, you don't sit in the first 2 rows. That's for the celebrities.
Oh,
like
on.
Stuff like that is like
silly.
be for real. Like that's insane.
Yeah, that's
actually.
silly.
Because at that point, it's not even about the church. It's not about God. It's not about the word. It's about appearances, and that to me is.
What are we going
ridiculous.
To the Grammys?
That's what I'm saying.
On.
I'm like, it's church. Like, are we serious?
That's just getting ridiculous.
So to me,
that's not even church.
So to me, it's like that's another thing that really turns me off.
Silly.
Is it's like this is supposed to be church, and you're treating it like the Grammys, like you said. Like, I don't like that. And it's like you should not be. Isn't church supposed to be come as you are? Why are you worried about what so and so is wearing and who's gonna see
and
you
who's sitting in the first 2 rows?
Like it's just that to me is like you can keep all that. Like no,
that's doing too much.
So I again, if you have found a church home or you enjoy church, I love that for you. Yeah. Maybe one day I will, maybe one day I won't. I'm good with where I'm at, but I do know people who enjoy watching church service at home too. So that's an option too.
Oh, okay. Now that's a good point.
I do enjoy a good sermon, like on YouTube or something.
No, I'm glad you said that. Now I have done that. So during COVID, I actually did watch a few, and I won't say who I watched, but I did watch some services on television. Yeah. And I actually enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I just popped in and out a few times, and I did enjoy that. Just to, add to what I was doing myself, watching, reading my Bible and whatnot. So again, like Jayla said, because we do say no judging here, and we mean that. I mean that, she means it. And so, I got a little passionate about me not going to church because I know that people this has happened to me personally, like, oh, you need to go to church, and people get all, weird with me about it. And I am far from an atheist, let me tell you. I love God, and I know He loves me. So I am saying that for those that, want to get all pushed out of shape with me, just like you go to church and I choose not to, I'm just saying we all get to make choices, right? We get to choose what we do, and it's okay. Whatever you do, it's okay. Whatever I do, it's okay. Just have that relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, if you're an atheist, I'm still not judging you.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
I don't judge. Whatever you do, it's your choice. We're all people. We're all people. So,
and at the end of the day, we have to remember too that it has a lot to do with our upbringings and our experiences,
right?
Because it's like, who's to say, if we didn't grow up Catholic or Christian, like, who knows, a lot of it is circumstantial,
right?
It's cultural,
right?
It's, and so it's like, yeah, just like you said, I don't judge people based off of their religious,
I just don't
preferences, or
I really don't
beliefs.
You can't do
say.
That. You can't do that,
because my thing is just,
don't do that to people.
As long as you are a good person and you're not hurting people,
right there,
that's really
just
the
be
main
a good
thing.
person.
that's really the only.
Treat people kindly.
Yeah,
treat people with respect.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I expect the same in return.
Yeah. So that's it. So yeah. Anything else you want to add? I think we covered everything.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, that includes.
Includes and concludes
episode 11. Thank you for tuning in. Please comment. We love to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your opinions. If you have any stories or anything that you'd like to add to the conversation, please, we would love to hear about it. Be sure to like this video. If you like this video, subscribe. We're here every Sunday, like clockwork. Turn on those post notifications because we'll be here next Sunday. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.